Welcome to another episode of What's Working in E-commerce. I'm your host, Egan Heath, the owner of Caravan Digital. We're a digital marketing agency for direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands. Today I'm speaking with Shaun Brandt from Oddit. Shaun, welcome.
Hey Egan, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit earlier, and it sounds like a true blue entrepreneur. You've tried many things. You've had a lot of experience in this industry. Tell us just a little bit about your journey so we can kind of place, how you got here.
Right out of university, I kind of dove right into it. I started my first agency. It was just me and a business partner of mine, and slowly scaled that up that was in 2010. We kind of started out doing branding and digital design, just your standard custom websites and stuff like that. And really scaled into high-end product design. By the end, our biggest clients were Getty Images, American Express, some of the larger, Fortune 500 companies, and kind of in control of their digital journeys. Exited that in 2018 and just really wanted to focus on really just, I guess, smaller clients. I kind of got sick of the agency life of constantly trying to just sell a bigger retainer. And, it became much less about product design and much more about, just managing cash flows and chasing the dollar, and just kind of got tired of it. But since then, I had my hands on a lot of different businesses. Currently, it's Coolin, which is a performance marketing agency, and Oddit, which is what we call a brand first CRO agency. So, or not agency, but a brand first CRO company. Brand first CRO is kind of something that we coined when we came into the space. We kind of fell ass first into CRO. Didn't really intend to do that. Our background is all in product design, so we were helping a lot of our paid media clients on the Coolin side, just basically kind of remove friction points and create a better UX experience. And what we ended up seeing, because we were managing their paid accounts, was a higher conversion rate. And so we kind of developed the Oddit product based off of those tests that we were running, which were really just helping them simplify their UX based on all of our learnings in the history of how we did product design. And because it's not a traditional CRO engagement where we go in, we're making assumptions or hypotheses, then we go in and we test them, and we kind of have this ongoing A/B test of seeing what works and what doesn't. We're kind of a step before that, so we decided to label it different as brand first CRO, which is really just helping these brands, I guess, align their UX, whether it's like off of a template or a brand that's a little more unique, just finding ways to help them create a better foundation for when they do go and start A/B testing everything ongoing.
Yeah, something I'm curious about as a fellow agency owner is why is Oddit a separate brand? Why did you make that separate from Coolin, your digital marketing agency?
Yeah, I think on the Coolin side, there's a lot of synergy there. So, I would say 75% of our Coolin clients purchase an audit report, and I would say, every audit customer at least hears about Coolin because they're all in that space where they do need performance marketing help. But I think with Oddit in particular, we really wanted to keep it extremely focused. I think that's one of the things I learned running an agency is, and I think was a fault of ours. Anytime a customer comes in the door, you're just excited to be making money, and you kind of just say yes to everything. And I learned the hard way that saying yes to everything usually ends up with a lot of failed projects. So with Oddit, we kind of said, we do reports. We don't do ongoing services. We're not an agency. In most of the cases with our reports, the customer never actually interacts with a human being at all. And so by doing that and reducing a lot of the labor associated with, phone calls, follow-ups, feedback loops, we're able to produce a lot of design work and a lot of really high-end output without having a really high cost, which is part of the appeal of Oddit, I think.
It's audit.carrd.co, and it's got an audit free quick win. Enter your URL below, and the audit team will send you one fully designed free quick win. And so you click try now, and it takes us to this pretty simple page. Try it for free. What page? And so you put in a URL. What's your brand name? And then what email address should we send it to? Tell us a little bit about this. This is a very interesting process, and also sort of very anti-agency. So just talk to me a little bit about this. What happens after someone submits this, and why did you do it this way?
So a lot of the audit, most of our traffic is organic. We're not doing any paid marketing or anything. So a lot of our customers land on our homepage, which is a little more marketing focused. You'll see a lot more explanation if you click that logo. But when it comes from social channels like LinkedIn or from Twitter, it's that card site is more of it's kind of like the link tree, right? We're kind of saying, okay, well, you know us a little bit. Let's figure out what you want now. And the reason that we drive people into that quick wins submission is that we want to show them what audit is. And we found that sending them a full report is kind of overwhelming, like sending them an example of a customer report. So what we do, they input their domain, and then 72 hours later, our team goes in, we pick one section of their site, we fully redesign it, and we give them the explanation of how and why we did that. So if you scroll up a bit there, right there, so you'll see the before and afters of all these different sites. So those are all quick wins. So these brands submit us their site, and then we show one section. So whether it's their homepage header or their reviews or their product cards, we redesign that one section, and then we give them a little one-page document that says, here's why we did this. And it's really just our lead gen kind of step one, right? So they submit for that. Once they get that, they can book a call with us, or they can just purchase a report. And that's kind of where we're driving most of our traffic.
This is fascinating. So just for anybody listening on the audio, I'm seeing kind of a carousel type scroll here on the website. This is Oddit, oddit.co. And I can see the before and after of each sort of mobile landing page, before audit and then the audit recommendations. Some of them are little tweaks. Some of them are changed up quite a bit. There's also some major brands here like Mudwater and Everlane and some others I'm seeing. So that's awesome to see. And then you kind of submit some basic info and get a report. So one thing I'm curious about here, Shaun, is I don't know if you think of it this way, but in design, people might call this spec work, where you're doing something for free here. I assume there's a cost to you, that's time consuming. How did you come up with this? And tell us a little bit about how that's worked for your business.
Yeah, it's interesting because, to your point, it is spec work. And from an agency standpoint, I hated doing spec work, and I actually refused to do it when we had an agency. But I think in this case, how we look at it is we don't do any paid marketing, and our Twitter has kind of become our number one source of leads. And these quick wins have become our almost sole content on Twitter. I think it's why we've grown so fast and why we've gotten such a reputation as quick as we have. So I don't look at it as spec work. I look at it as marketing, our marketing content. So every time an auditor or an employee of ours is investing time in doing one of these mock-ups, it's giving us an opportunity to keep them, evolving their craft. So it's an opportunity for our team to educate. It allows us to create marketing content across a really diverse amount of brands, right? We've done 2,100 quick wins now. So if you imagine how many amazing pieces of content we have for marketing, for Twitter, for newsletters, for content partnerships that we have with marketing groups in private Slacks and stuff, we have so many content partnerships, and now we just have this giant library of, very, very visual, tips that we can use. And so for me, it's definitely been a big investment, don't get me wrong, but I love that it keeps our team, let's say if our team's doing audit reports all day, every day, it can get tiring, right? Like any type of work like that, if it's an agency too, right? You get tired of doing the same brand for even a week. And with quick wins, we can get designers working on 5, 10, 15 brands a day, which if you talk to a designer, that's super intriguing because most of them don't get to do that in a month.
Wow, this is fascinating. I'm glad I asked you about this, Shaun, and this is just a very cool form of marketing that you've, stumbled upon is a word, that you've discovered and pioneered. So what we would normally think of, hey, this is a free audit, this is some spec work, you've turned into your content marketing. And so even if this client does, if this person doesn't become a client or this brand doesn't sign on with you, other people get to see that work and you say, here's the before and after. And they say, wow, this looks great. We should hire Oddit.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting about it that we didn't see that was going to happen initially, or we didn't foresee, was we're getting all of these brands. So let's say that out of those 2,100, we convince 400 to buy a full report, right? The quick win is free. The report is anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000, depending what you get. And so let's say we got 20% of them to convert. The other 80%, they're not fully lost because, one, all of them, at least from what we're hearing, they're talking to people as though they've worked with Oddit. So they look at that quick win as though it's like an engagement. And so we get a ton of referrals or where we get on calls, sales calls, and people are like, oh, I heard of you from so-and-so. And we look it up in our system and it's all they ever got was a quick win, but they're out there talking about how much they love Oddit. Whether it's they didn't want a full report, they couldn't afford a full report, whatever it was, they still had a positive exchange with our team and with our company. And so all of those spec works or free quick wins are kind of working as, additional word of mouth marketing from all of these brands out there still talking about Oddit, whether it's in a private community or on Twitter or whatever it is. So that's been really interesting to me. And especially when it comes to this type of stuff, that marketing, like that word of mouth from founders in the D2C space is so much more powerful than, us self-promoting or, that kind of stuff.
Wow, this is fascinating. I'm glad we could talk about this. Thank you for sharing this, Shaun. Something I'm curious about is just, again, as the agency owner, I've just got to ask, how much of your team's time do they spend on a quick win like that? It's not free for you. And then maybe we could transition into, how did you build up this expertise? How does the team know UX and CRO? We can kind of get into that, but just, I can't let this go. Or I'm like, how much are you investing into, this sort of a quick win type work?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. When we started, it was very, very time consuming. We've kind of built we have an entire Figma system that's like auditized. So like we have all of our best practices built as components, and you're really just going in and deciding what you're going to comment on and then applying the brand's layer to it, pulling in their assets. So when we first started out, every quick win took probably an hour. Now they take about, for a senior person like myself or one of our senior auditors, it would take like 15 to 20 minutes to do a quick win. So still not, still costing us time and money, but it's a lot more efficient. So let's say that we get, right now, I think on average, we get 10 submissions a day for quick wins. So, it's a half day's work for one person to do those quick wins every day, which is not cheap, obviously, but I think the fact that we're still doing it, I'm guessing you can take a guess that it's been valuable for us. So we're planning to continue doing it for the foreseeable future. I think if it wasn't as efficient as it was, it wouldn't make sense. We've talked about, hey, maybe let's just send them free, a 10 pack of ones we've done in the past instead of a custom one. But we've just gotten way too much good feedback on how excited people are when they get them. And, we also get people that are like, hey, I tested this and it increased my conversion rate like instantly. And so there's a lot of like interesting feedback for our team on what's working, what's not.
And then as I see the full report then is that sort of your productized service of that's how people pay to engage with Oddit?
Yeah, so that's kind of our primary service, is that report. It comes out to be like 50 pages in most cases. And to surmise it, it's just a bunch of quick wins, really, of those like before, after, and then the, why we did this. And then at the end of each, let's say they bought it for their homepage, their product page. At the end of each section, we also have a Figma prototype of their completely redesigned flow. So it kind of gives them an idea of all the changes and how they would be visualized. We're actually working. We also have an audit club, which is a private Slack community that's been growing really aggressively. So we use that as kind of our soft sell after the report to be like, okay, if you don't want to spend $3,000, this is $50 a month. You can come interact with our team, ask questions. So that's been really good. And then, like I mentioned before, we kind of fell backwards into this. So we're talking about launching additional verticals. So brand first CRO reports is what we sell now, but we're talking about launching identity audits. So we would go through and help, smaller brands produce brand guidelines really efficiently and audit their actual brand, audit their typefaces, audit, how responsive is their logo? Are the buttons, what's your button styling? Does it make sense? That kind of thing. And then also email audits. So going through your email flows, because we have an entire email team at Coolin, right? So we would tag them in and do a full email audit and produce a report. So over time, I really see audit becoming more of the name, just auditing every aspect of D2C brands, e-commerce brands, ideally.
And by keeping it down to audits and reports, you're productizing it and you're not getting involved in the weeds in terms of, we're not going to run the A/B test, we're not going to make these changes in Shopify. You're able to say, go change this, here's the value, but we don't implement.
Yeah, I think we could probably have quite a large digital agency if we did that. I would say 95% of our reports customers ask us if we can implement it. So we have partnerships with a ton of great digital agencies that we have, a lot of Shopify experience and a lot of audit experience. And then we also have partnerships with ongoing CRO firms that take our recommendations and help the customer test them. But from our standpoint, I don't know if it's the right business decision necessarily. It's more of just a personal decision. And I think that's probably one of the major things I took from running an agency is I'm just not, as a business owner, as a founder, as a day-to-day human being, I'm not happy when I'm dealing with clients every minute of the day, and I don't want to deal with them. I don't like, I think probably one of the parts I hated most about running the agency is clients asking you to take on a project and putting their money and their faith in you to help their business, and then them constantly saying why, and giving feedback or pushing ideas, from higher up in the company down into a project with no real rationale. And I think our perspective at Oddit is kind of like, we're the best at what we do, take it or leave it. And some brands might find that arrogant or maybe short-sighted, but for us, it's the only way we can produce that much design work at that price point. If I was to go to my old agency, like that's still operating, and say, hey, here's this report, how much did it cost you to make one of these? They'd probably tell me 35 grand, right? Like because it's just not how they would look at it like an entire website redesign with a team of 3 people, right? And so I think we have, as a brand or as a product, whatever you want to call it, we haven't really had any pushback from that. Like there's the odd customer that's like, hey, can we please get a kickoff call? Like they don't understand. And we don't really push back, in a lot of cases we'll just take it. We limit it to 15 minutes. I pretty much across the board, aside from these types of things, if you talk to my team members, it's impossible to get me to commit to a call over 15 minutes because there's just so few things that, in my opinion, that need more than that on a call if you're efficient or if you have proper planning. So yeah, it really is more of a personal thing where the main reason we exited our last agency was getting tired of living on Zoom calls and living in feedback loops that really weren't beneficial to the end product. And I think with Oddit, we just, really wanted to focus on what's the best way to actually increase their conversion, not, in an agency setting, what's the best way to make more money from the client.
That's wonderful. This is beyond valuable to me as an agency owner, Shaun. I'm curious, do you have some more time to talk with us about some UX and CRO specifics?
Yeah, for sure.
I guess I just want to start with the learning piece of how did you and your team learn how to do this? How did you learn what works in UX and CRO? So
the learning side of it, unfortunately, it wasn't very quick and easy. I think from the UX standpoint, it was very much, a lot of our team was self-taught in the early days. Like I'm speaking back to my last agency, and really learning through trial and error of what works and what doesn't. A lot of what we did at my last company, it's called Verset, if you did want to look it up. But a lot of what we did within that company is really long form customer journeys. So imagine like one of our clients was a large travel bookings company, right? So a customer booking a car rental, a hotel, a meeting room, 2 flights with 3 stops, plus their car when they get there, right? It's like 75 steps, right? 10 times what an e-com journey would be. And so it was really just finding ways, for the most part, to just reduce friction and get users through that path faster. So how that translated to audit was really just taking a lot of those same principles, and a lot of that just comes down to speaking extremely clearly and being very direct, right? Where a lot of brands miss the mark in D2C is they take notes from big brands, right? And big brands like to use marketing speak or the same type of copywriting that you might see on a billboard or on an ad campaign, and they translate it out into their website. And in D2C, most of your customers are discovering you on your website. They're not discovering you in Target and then going to your website. So using marketing jargon and all that crap, it doesn't work the same, because you have their attention for 1 second. And if you don't tell them exactly what you do, why it's important and why they should have it within 2-3 seconds, you're screwed. They're gone in most cases. So most of our job when it comes to helping brands convert better, it's communication, it's copywriting, it's deleting things, honestly, deleting blocks of copy that they don't need. It's really just, it's just tightening everything up, right? Like making sure that if you're on a mobile device, each section is a single fold as best you can, like all those little tweaks that just help when a user's on a mobile device, which is, I keep saying mobile because that's where we focus our audits on, because it's most of our customers are 80% mobile traffic. It's really just tightening those things up, removing friction, removing excess white space, removing unnecessary copywriting or marketing jargon, that kind of stuff.
Really make it very clear what you're selling, who it's for, what the value proposition is, and kind of what the call to action is, huh?
A lot of the nuances that you see across e-commerce, like mobile menu in the top left, cart in the top right. Yes, these things are that way because the entire, digital space is a bunch of copycats, right? They're all just evolutions of other sites they've seen. But these are things that have become second nature to people. They don't need, if I just close my eyes and look at a site, I could generally figure out where some stuff is when I get there, right? And you need to play into that. And a lot of brands try and get cheeky and cute and do things really abstract, and it might look cool, but I can almost guarantee it's converting like shit, because it's just people have to hunt for it, and the average time on site for a new customer is not long, and so every second they're hunting for something your conversion rate's just slowly going down. So a lot of it is helping brands like that, right? And especially in direct to consumer space, there's a lot of really cool, fun products out there right now, and they all have really, the design branding community has been amazing, right? In helping these brands elevate and tell interesting stories. So a lot of our job is just helping brands like that still tell a really unique, interesting brand story and still make it look really cool and fun, and while still converting, which is not easy, but it's still possible.
Yeah, that's great. I want to be respectful of your time, Shaun. Is there anything else you want to show us?
The benefit of the quick win is that I can kind of always end these things by saying, if you really want to see more or learn more, just submit for a quick win. It's free. So I would definitely urge people to do that. I think it's overwhelming when we get big influxes, but we always get through them. And I think it's like I said, it's good practice for our team. So I would just encourage anyone listening that's can't see that or wants to understand better what that process looks like, just hop on the site and submit for one, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Who's a good fit for that, Shaun, and where can they find you?
Anyone that has products that they sell online. It doesn't have to be, D2C per se in terms of like a online only type brand, but if you have, I always say, if you have a cart on your site, then Oddit's probably a good fit. We have audited a few, more unique brands like insurance companies or other platforms that just want to have a UX audit. But ideally, what we're looking at is e-commerce brands. If you want to see a little bit more about how we approach design and how we approach conversion rate, the best place to get more info is on our Twitter. We're always pushing out content. So the Twitter handle is it's Oddit, ITSODDIT. And then if you do want to submit for a quick win, just head over to our website, which is auditot.co.
Shaun, thank you so much for sharing what's working in e-commerce.
Awesome. Thanks, Egan.